Yeah, I tell you what, I've had a week off and I've come back and I'm in total Euros mode. But do not let anybody think that means I am suddenly confident England are going to do anything, because I'm not.
Yeah, such a difficult one. I think we were talking about it just before you had that week off, Aid, and we were both excited about it, really. But after watching these last two games, I know we've missed a lot of players, but it's all part of the build-up for me normally. You've seen the friendly, seeing what side he's going to play, but having chose to rest the Manchester City players and Chelsea players, we'll see if that's the right call. Going into Friday, won't we? Because they've had a good period of time off. But watching the last two games, it hadn't filled me with excitement. It's filled me with a little bit of dread in certain areas.
Me too. And we were discussing the draw, weren't we, before my week off, and how difficult it is for England, particularly if they win the group. They might not even make the quarterfinals, because win the group and they play second in the group of death, featuring France, Germany, Portugal. Even if they don't face one of those in the round of 16, they will face one of them if they make it to the quarterfinals. So this is what's really kind of jarred with me. I think that's the right way to put it. It's jarred with me how England have been, or how Gareth Southgate's been, really. I mean, lazy people think that England fans are all confident and cocky going into the tournament full of arrogance. We are far from that. I mean, there's a fantastic documentary coming up this week on 3 Lions, and it analyses the words of the song. It's on talkSPORT this week. I'll let you know when later. But it analyses the words of the song. And it basically it's a song that says, we know we're pretty rubbish and we know we're not confident. And that's exactly how I feel right now. Apart from the fact that we do have some really good players in certain positions. Oh, yeah. But what we've got to do is use those players to the maximum. And I don't think we're doing that. And as much as I admire Ben White, and listen, he's a player who had a spell at my club, so of course I'm going to admire Ben White. I don't want to say anything against him, but I think by having one place left and you give that place to somebody who can play defensive midfield, centre-back or full-back, it sends completely the wrong message. You've got a chance to send out an attacking message.
But that's his buzz. That's his buzz call for this Euros, with the looks of it, because every player can play somewhere else. He's been really loud about it when he's done all his press conferences. Well, he can play left back, he can play right back, he can play midfield, he can play centre back over 3, or he can play right wing back. So I think he's been quite outspoken about that. So I thought he has played his way into the side. I think it would have been Godfrey. I think he's played himself out of it.
Do you think that? What, after yesterday's game?
Well, I think his 2 performances, he started off nervously, I think, in both games. And that's not against him. I think he's had a fantastic season here. We've talked about him many times on this show for Everton. But coming in, he's got a couple of England caps. It will do him good moving forward. But I think he thought he's probably not quite ready for this one. Now, with Ben White, I think the clearance off the line when he came on as sub, and he played in midfield, then went to right back, and he showed he can play centre back as well. The other night, I think he's played himself in as a be the one everybody thought, but he was a definite going to be out of it.
Okay, I do get that, and like I say, it's not a negative on Ben White, but you're manager and you've got a chance to say something. By picking a defensive player, what he's basically saying is, I'm picking another defensive player in order to stop any opponent from scoring against us. So what you're fundamentally doing there is asking an opponent, can you score against us? You're asking France, can you score against us? Well, I've got the answer to that. Yes, they can.
It's covering 2 players. It's covering Maguire, injured. Mings has had a howler last 2 games, by the way. And I think he's been quite good in an England shirt. But the last 2 games, I think he's had a howler. So he's covering Maguire, Ben White. And he might even just sneak in now. And he's also, because he played in that defensive midfield role, he's covering Henderson. Right. So he's doing both. He's covering both spots.
This is where we get to the crux of it, because I don't believe Henderson should be in the squad anyway. Roy Keane had a pop at him, said he didn't think he was fit. I personally, how can he be fit after 3 months out? People talk about his leadership and how much the players need him around. And I know that Roy Keane was quite dismissive of that. He kind of joked about it, saying, what does he do? Card tricks, quizzes. And it was quite funny. And it does leave you wondering, well, if you really need somebody as a cheerleader around the camp, then you've got a lot of problems. You're not relying on your football, you're relying on somebody to keep up the spirits. That's not a positive for me. So I'm looking at that thinking, what does Jordan Henderson bring if he's not playing? Well, Apparently it was leadership. And then yesterday, he basically tried to destroy Dominic Calvert-Lewin's confidence before a tournament.
Well, it's destroyed his confidence because if he goes to a penalty now, he's missed his last two, misses 2 with England, hasn't he?
Well, he shouldn't be taking a penalty from England.
Well, he won't. But
yeah.
Can you imagine now if he steps up?
Well, he might have to
take a penalty.
If it goes all the way a penalty shootout, he might have to. So for me, that was a pretty appalling thing for him to do. There's no need for it, and for him to come out afterwards and say, "Well, I'm not too bothered about it." Well, you might not be. England fans are. The manager was clearly. What about Calvert-Lewin? He was bothered about it. I heard Danny Murphy say, no, it doesn't really matter too much. He actually defended Henderson for missing the penalty, then had a go at Calvert-Lewin for not going for the rebound. I mean, I love Danny, but really, come on, let's get this straight. I don't think Jordan Henderson should be in the squad.
I think
if you got Ben White in there, because you got Calvin Phillips in that position, Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham in that position as well. So why do you need Henderson there? He should not be in that squad when you've left out Lingard and Ward-Prowse, who for me do, either one of them, both of them deserve to be in the 26.
Well, Ward-Prowse in the last 2 games has been pretty good when he's got on the pitch. And we saw his deliveries yesterday. One question I will do on these friendlies, though, is, but I know he's great when he does these set pieces, but I found it strange, but he was on all the set pieces when he's not going to the Euros. Surely the guy who's going to possibly be on them should be taking them, or one of the players that is going. You know what I mean? In case one of the guys who might not be on the pitch, whether it be, you know what I mean, Mount that takes them, or someone else, or Foden, or whatever. Hey, don't you think it should have been someone else taking the set pieces?
It's an unbelievably brilliant point. I mean, it really is a great point you've spotted there, because you're right. Ward-Prowse is not going to take a single set piece at this tournament.
Not one.
He's been sent home. They've all gone home and been told, no, you don't have to keep yourself fit or anything. He's not going to be doing anything at this tournament. Why was he practicing set pieces yesterday? As much as we love him and know he's brilliant at them. Yeah, very good at them. But he's not going to help us in the tournament. Now, I love Ward-Prowse, but I'm not as big a fan as to say that he's the only one who could take a set piece. Mason Mount is brilliant on set pieces. Trippier can take a free kick as well. So I don't think we're that desperate that we've got to have Ward-Prowse in. I feel for him because I don't think he could have done much more, especially with the club that he's at. I also feel for Lingard because in the last 6 months he couldn't have done much more as well. I just think the balance of it all is wrong. And the message from this squad's, it's a desperate pick, Jordan Henderson. Absolute desperation to pick Jordan Henderson. It says we can't possibly do without him. Even if he's not going to play, we can't do without him.
There's 26 players there, and I said this last week. My thing is, having been part of a team and been part of... We tend to go away a bit longer, right? So it is a little bit different. So you do need people.
Yeah.
And I'd be criticising something what they did with me. In 2002-03, they took me to Australia when I'd not played for a year. Purely because they were hoping I was going to be fit. It had 6 weeks before the first test match, so they were hoping to get me back. Even when I was out there, realised it was going slow, so they sent me to the academy in Adelaide. And I came back from that after a week, realising that was it. So just before the first test, after being out there for 5 weeks, I went back home and I went to America when I thought it was the end. So I'd be highly critical of something that happened to me. But they took me for that reason. I'd been a senior player. They knew what I was like around the team, my energy, everything about it. And if I did, on the chance to get fit, I make a difference to the team. So they took me for that reason. So that's what they see in Jordan Henderson. They're not taking him just because he's a cheerleader. They're taking him for his quality on the pitch, right? And his leadership skills off it, and being part of a successful team that have won things. That creates positive energy.
Let's hear from you on it, please. 08717 722 3344. That documentary is on Thursday night on talkSPORT, 7 p.m. It's called It's Coming Home, the story of 3 lions. I've heard it already. It is brilliant. And tomorrow night at 7 p.m, Gaza and McCoist together again. I've heard that as well. That's superb. Gaza's in fantastic form on that. And you've got to remember, Gaza and McCoist won the title at Rangers in 96, then played against each other at Euro 96. So that is awesome. It is some conversation. That's tomorrow night at 7. This is talkSPORT.